Young men came from hunting, faint and weary. What is that, my lord, my dearie? Oh, brother dear, let my bed be made. Right field gripe of the woody nightshade.
Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode number 214. We're recording this on Saturday, May 13th, 2017. I'm David Lott. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
Hello.
And Yasha Wilson.
Hey.
Michelle is off this weekend. She's taking a little short vacation, so she will not be with us, unfortunately. I think she'll be back with us next weekend when we record. But this weekend, it's just three of us. Opening the show this week, that is music from King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. That'll be our featured review this week. The music from that was by Daniel Pemberton. I don't think I've ever heard any of his stuff before. Sam Lee's also performing on this particular track. Just a reminder for everyone, this podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play Music, and the iHeartRadio app. You can find us by simply searching for Flicker Effect. That's 2 words. You can also find us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Flicker Effect. So how's it going, guys?
Pretty good. It's a Saturday.
I know, it's weird,
recording
right?
On a Saturday.
It is.
It is weird.
It's Saturday. It's early. We've done some early records lately, but still, yeah, this is different. We'll have basically our whole weekend ahead of us and be done with the podcast already, which is different for us.
Different.
Definitely different. But yeah, I guess we'll just get right into this movie. So, King Arthur, directed by Guy Ritchie. For some reason, you are not familiar with that name out there. He is known for being the director of Snatch. He also directed the Sherlock Holmes films, the ones with Robert Downey Jr., and more recently, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. You know, I'm saying this, I can't remember. It's popping in my head now that, you know, Michelle being I think she's kind of such of a diehard Sherlock Holmes fan. I don't think I've ever gotten her take on those movies. I have no idea what she thinks of those.
It'd be fun to hear what she has to say because I thoroughly enjoyed them.
Yeah?
But I like Robert Downey Jr., I like Jude Law, and I really enjoy Guy Ritchie's work. Well, most of it. And so I want to hear what she has to say, too. I think we should ask her the next time she comes back.
I do, because that's, you know, I could be wrong, but I get the impression maybe she'd be more of a purist. So I wouldn't be shocked if she's not a fan of them for that reason, you know. But at the same time, you know, she likes the new Sherlock Holmes series that's been on, BBC? And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I have no idea if she would like them or not. Anyway.
You forgot one of Guy Ritchie's biggest credits.
Oh, yeah, I'm completely blanking on which one.
He was married to Madonna.
Oh.
Yeah.
there is that.
There is that. That was his claim to fame. Let's focus on that and why their relationship didn't work out. I think we really need.
Let's talk about that.
Let's dive in.
Relationship.
Let's talk about that. Did he direct? I forget. Did he direct that movie that they were in together, or she was in? What am I? Swept Away. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did direct that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
But we don't talk about that one. We talk about his credits.
I have not seen Swept Away. I don't think about it at all when I think about his work. I've never seen Rock and Rolla. I've heard mixed things about it. I feel like fans of it are huge fans of it. And you know, I've never seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Okay, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is amazing.
I have a feeling it is. It's just one of those that I've missed for some reason.
Yeah. It's like one of those movies where it's like where people really just get a feeling as to who Guy Ritchie was and how he directs his movies. And then that brings you into Snatch, because I think it was Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then it goes into Snatch, because he uses a lot of the same actors. I tried to watch Rock and Roller. I couldn't get through it. I was so bored. Like I feel like I need to try and go back and watch it, but I kept falling asleep. I tried like 2 different times and I kept falling asleep in the movie. That's how bored I was.
Yeah. Well, now we got a new film from him, King Arthur, stars Charlie Hunnam. Normally we consult the bold and figure out who's going to go first. I don't feel like I haven't gone first in a while, so screw it. I'll just start things off if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Handle it.
So, King Arthur. This was a movie that when I want to say even like when we sat through the panel in Hall H this past summer, I was kind of like, I don't know, this doesn't seem like it's my thing. The more I saw trailers of it, I actually got more and more interested in it, which kind of shocked me. Though I liked Guy Ritchie's work, it's nothing against like him. It's just like, I don't know, this seems like kind of a different take on King Arthur. I don't know if I'm going to be into this. So I got more and more interested as the movie got closer. I will say before I give my take on this that I guess kind of maybe this might be surprising to some. I don't know. I'm not really honestly that familiar with the legend of King Arthur, to be completely honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know of it. I know the basics. But I've never really watched a lot of interpretations of the legend in film form, or I haven't read much. Like, it's not something I have been, I guess, kind of that into. So I don't really have like this kind of preconceived, like, man, I feel like this is the way the story should be in my head. And that might have been a good thing because I actually really like this movie. And this movie... definitely I get the impression is quite a different take on it than what most people might be used to. And I say that because I'm like, again, I'm watching this movie and again, I get the basics. I get the whole like, hey, he has to pull the sword out of the stone thing, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, I'm like, never heard of this character before. Never heard of that character before. Never heard of this, I guess city or whatever. It was all kind of new to me, to be completely honest. And for me, I think it kind of worked. I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not saying the movie is perfect. I definitely think it kind of in the second act, I kind of had some problems with it. But overall, I found myself enjoying Guy Ritchie's take on this quite a bit. Actually, right from the start, like right from the beginning of the movie, this scene with these huge elephants. And I definitely found myself, and I know we come back to the subject again and again about Dolby Cinema. I found myself sitting in the theater going, God damn it, I wish I was watching this in a better theater. Because the sound design was really good and just very big. And I'm like, I mean, this is fine and all, but man, I wish I was in like IMAX or Dolby Cinema right now. This would be so much better. But overall, I mean, I won't say too much to start off. I'll just say I was kind of surprised. I overall really enjoyed the film. I'm not saying it's perfect again, but I liked it. What did you guys think, Bobby?
I guess with my history with King Arthur, it kind of goes back to my childhood. I remember reading the book as a young kid, and I was always fascinated with the stories of King Arthur. It was probably my first introduction into that sort of fantasy world where you have that mythological aspects and creatures and magic and everything else. So I've grown up knowing the story, and I've seen different iterations of the story being told. And so as you mentioned, when we were at Comic-Con and they showed the trailer for it, I like Charlie Hunnam as an actor because I watched all of Sons of Anarchy. So I was interested from that perspective. But then when, knowing that Guy Ritchie was directing it, I really didn't know what type of movie to expect. And so I didn't really have any particular high expectations for it. And when the trailers came around, it didn't really bolster my opinion in terms of what I was expecting from it. It just still didn't grab me. And I just don't think that the marketing has really done a good job for this movie at all, really. I mean, it's out there, but it doesn't really seem to convey what you're going to get in this film. And that being said, I really enjoyed this take on King Arthur's legend because it is different. It's way different, but I think I accepted it for being different because I've seen the tried and true version of it before. I know what it looks like and what it feels like to have that story told. And it's not like this was the first time of a telling of King Arthur, and this is what we're getting, and it's so different than what people have come to know. It's cool when you can do it when there's a whole bunch of other ones out there that do tell it in the straightforward sort of way. So why not mix it up and do something a little bit different? And that's exactly what he does. And one of the things that I appreciated about this movie a lot was that with Guy Ritchie and his style, it comes through in this film. There's like scenes when uh, Arthur is talking and he's talking to explaining a story of something, and other characters are joining in, and it's like classic Guy Ritchie sort of talk where they're just making this conversation quick and snappy and just making the different visuals match along with what the story is being told. And it was the action goes into like different types of cut scenes and everything. And there was only one scene, honestly, I felt like I wished he hadn't done that, which is when I think he's in the dark realm or dark forest or whatever. And there's these different types of creatures. I would have liked to see the longer sequence of that as opposed to a sort of a quick cut style to further that part of the story. But aside from that, and a couple of little nitpicks, I really enjoyed it a lot, and more than I think I was expecting to enjoy it going into it. And so I'm a little disappointed to see that not a lot of people are turning out for it because it's not a sequel, it's not another sort of reboot per se, and it's kind of like its own thing. And I think people would be maybe refreshed to go see this and not have something that it's tied to. And who knows? I mean, if it probably did better, maybe it would become a franchise. But as is, it seems like maybe this is just going to be a one-time thing. And I think it was very enjoyable. I think it's something people should go check out.
Cool. Yasha, what'd you think of it? You're a big fan of King Arthur, the legend, right?
I am, and I gotta tell you, when I heard that they were doing this movie, and like you, David, when I saw the trailer at Comic-Con and they really introduced it, I was not excited to see this movie. I was not excited to see this movie earlier this week when it came out. I just really wasn't into the idea of remaking it and this whole new retelling. And because I don't know, I'm like Bobby. I've been introduced to these characters since I was a child. I remember watching Excalibur when I was a kid, reading books. It was all just very fascinated about all of this, and it was fun. It's just that type of culture where you're brought up when you're around, so you're kind of become a purist in the sense that you don't want somebody to just kind of shit all over your childhood and this retelling. After watching this, I'm really interested and kind of excited to see Guy Ritchie's take on Aladdin, with him working on that for Disney, because I found this movie to be fantastic, and that's the only word that I can think of when I finished it. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, it was the best movie ever, but the sets, the scenery, the dialogue, I mean, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a really, really fun movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The banter back and forth was very, very Guy Ritchie. The editing and the cutting, I thought it was a fantastic way of retelling the story. It's fun to hear the names of some of the characters that they were talking about and knowing who they actually were and what he turned them into in the story. And knowing that this is supposed to be a beginning of the story, it's very much can be set up as an individual film. And if it does well, they're going to make more of them. I really hope that they make more of them, because I would love to see this world continue and see Charlie Hunnam as Arthur and keep going with it, because this take on the story was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. I love the magic and the world that they kind of created. Like you, Bobby, I was really interested in seeing more of those characters when he was in the dark forest and all those creatures, because I feel like that was kind of just a tidbit, and they really didn't explore that or kind of explain what that whole scene was really about, more whether it was a dream or if he was really experiencing that. And I kind of come to the conclusion that he was actually experiencing that. But I really, really enjoyed the film. Like, I thought it was fantastic. It was just a lot of fun. It was funnier than I expected. The banter was really good, and some of the fight scenes were a lot of fun to watch. Like, really, really cool editing. So yeah, I'm all in. I dig it. I dug it.
Nice. I'm surprised we all enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this
David,
at all.
I'm surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did when I walked out. I was like, hey, that was cool. Like,
Right.
it's like, you know.
Yeah, like talk. You guys were bringing up the scene in the dark. What was it, like the dark forest, or what was it called?
I forget what it was called, but it was
Dark
something.
Dark
And
something.
I keep maybe it was like Dark Rain or Dark Land or something. It
Like where he was
something.
supposed to go find it. Dark
Right.
Castle was supposed to go find himself or something to that effect.
It's like he was supposed to go activate his sword or something on something. Like,
Activate his sword. It's not a power up, David.
I know, but that's what it felt like, right? Like you got to go and put it on this thing, and yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like it was interesting where it would have been like cool to see more of that, play out. But at the same time, I do like the way it was cut. Like I thought it was handled and cut really well. On the opposite side, I felt like the middle section in the movie, the whole set piece in Londinium, is that how you say it? With them trying to assassinate the king, that felt really kind of long and drawn out to me, even though I guess in terms of plot, it kind of needed to all be the way it was, maybe, but I don't know. Am I the only one that kind of felt like that section seemed like we were spending a lot more time on this whole thing than we were a lot of other stuff where I was like, oh man, I would have loved to spend more time in the dark forest or whatever. But this was like, oh, it feels like it's taking forever.
I didn't feel like it was taking forever, but now that you mention it, it did play out longer than I would have liked in terms of the ratio to seeing that compared to seeing him on that island with the creatures and everything. But I get where they were trying to go with that, and a lot of it had to do with building up that tension between the soldiers and the townspeople, and really showing how hard it was going to be for Arthur to kind of get out of that situation that was sort of created by, I keep wanting to call him Littlefinger, the guy from Game of Thrones, basically. He kind of sort of looked out for his own needs and ended up getting them kind of in a pickle. And I think it was handled well, but yeah, it probably could have been a little bit shorter.
Yeah, of course. I'm trying to look up which actor that was. We actually had a couple Game of Thrones actors in this.
Yeah,
and it was funny too.
I think we're skipping over the most important part of this. I mean, come on. In regards to actors kind of popping up, hello, David Beckham.
I know, dude. That took me a second, man. Like that whole scene pops up, and you see him kind of like turn to the side, talking to like other knights. And at first, I totally didn't catch it. And it wasn't until the second shot that I'm like, wait a fucking second, look at that guy.
That's exactly how I felt too. I was like watching. I was like, was that David Beckham?
Right.
Like, then he comes back on, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, David? Come on, man. You don't act. It's not like you really need the money, and you just kind of come to the conclusion. You're probably to your own self knowledge. You're just like, okay, you were clearly on set or having lunch with Guy Ritchie at some point during this, and there he was like, hey, dude, you want to be in this movie? And he was probably like, yeah, for sure, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could see that because it's similar in the way that there's so many people who pop up in these new Star Wars films that are just like, how you had Daniel Craig as the stormtrooper, but you don't see him, and then you had not Edgar Wright. Who am I thinking of? I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but he plays Scotty in the Star Trek series, and he was
Simon Pegg.
Yes, Simon Pegg. He was one of the creatures in Star Wars. So I can totally see how Guy Ritchie and Beckham are probably friends in real life, and he probably was like, hey, I got a little bit for you if you want to do it. And he's like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
You know what? And he did well. I thought, it seemed really natural. Like he wasn't, super awkward when you see somebody that pops into a film sometimes that doesn't act, and you're just kind of like, that was really bad. Didn't need to have him here. Why is this person in this movie?
Right, yeah.
But when he showed up, I was more so the effect of like, hey, he was pretty good. That was not bad.
No, I thought he was fine.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a number of people that are seeing this movie and probably don't even realize it's him. He's got some kind of work done on his face where he looks kind of scarred up, and
Hmm.
I mean, once you notice, it feels pretty obvious it's him. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that watch this movie had no idea and are just like, oh yeah, it's just another actor. And I thought he did well. I mean, it's a short little part.
I'd be pretty sure that most people probably don't know because, I mean, people probably know the name David Beckham and know of what he's famous for, but how many Americans per se really kind of pay attention to that type of thing? That, especially like you said, he's kind of under a little bit of prosthetics and stuff. So
Right.
I'm sure most people probably didn't even catch it.
I was wondering if I was the only one, and don't get me wrong, I realized very quickly this was not the case, but like the very first shot you saw of that leader of the Vikings, it looked so much like Mads Milkinson to me.
Oh,
I
Oh,
knew
it totally did.
it totally looked. I had a split second where I'm like, wait a second, he's not in this, and
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, yeah, that's not him. But
No, I had to keep looking. Like I really studied when I was watching it. I was like, "Is that Matt Milkson?" Like I feel like they would have advertised this guy a little bit
you would think
if he
so.
was going to be in the movie.
you know, one of my favorite parts of this movie, and it has nothing to do with anything other than I would attribute it to Guy Ritchie's style or whatever the case may be, was the movie's going along in the beginning, like you said, David, you have the elephants in the beginning and everything is happening, and there's really action from the beginning of this movie. And then the you don't get the name of the movie until his mom, Arthur's mom, gets killed and she drops off and then the title card comes up for King Arthur. And I was like, damn, that's kind of cool. It was like the way it just happened like that. It was like it was just stylistic, and
Yeah.
I was like, that had to be just really Guy Ritchie's direction to it because I hadn't seen something like that, and it was just kind of perfectly timed out. But I thought it was really cool that.
Well, it makes me happy that you guys enjoyed it too, because like I saw the movie, I really liked it, and then I come home and I'd been avoiding really looking at any reviews, and I mean I still haven't dug around a lot, but I mean I've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score, I've seen some kind of rumblings online, and I'm like, man, everyone seems to be kind of shitting on it. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know, like, am I missing something? Because I enjoyed it, so I'm
Which
glad.
is a shame because it was a fun movie. Like it was pretty good. It wasn't spectacular, but I mean, with me saying that, and I just used the word fantastic to describe it, but I don't have any other words for it. Like I just felt it was really. I was like, wow, that was pretty fantastic. Like the sets, the props, everything, the storyline, how they changed it up. It was funny. They did a damn good job. Like I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good, awesome. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else to say about it though. Like, I liked it. I would highly recommend anyone to see it in the theater. And like I said before, I didn't get to see it in a large format screen, but I definitely think it's worthy of something that's a little better quality. I saw it in just a normal standard, theater, and I mean, it was fine, like I said, but right from the start, the beginning of that movie with those elephants and everything and the sound design in the beginning, I'm like, God damn it, man, I wish I was in a better theater for this. But with Guardians of the Galaxy only in its second week, it's still kind of taking up all of those really good screens.
Hmm.
And none of those screens are being given up for this movie, which isn't doing particularly well and isn't being received that well critically. So, I mean, I get that, but it's just unfortunate.
You know, it's funny you say that, David, because when I saw the elephants in the first opening scene, I honestly thought, "Oh, what is this happy bullshit?" 'Cause I was just like, I really wasn't turned on by the
Oh yeah,
idea of like giant elephants just kind of roaming in, and all I could think of was like they better explain it, and it better be fucking good.
mm,
Like, it's like because I sat there and I listened, I watched it, and I was not hooked with that.
Hmm.
I just wasn't for whatever reason. I just couldn't get behind it. But then when we started to get into it and they started to explain what was going on and a little further into the film, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I can kind of get behind this. This was good. This was cool.
There was one choice in the movie that I was found myself questioning, and didn't really understand why it was like this. But um, Merlin's not really in the movie. They show him
Oh no,
once,
you're
and
right.
he's cloaked. And you don't really see his face. So it's like, is that meant to be like a setup to where you'll see him in a sequel if they were going to go that route, or was it purposefully they just didn't want to have him in this movie and have a female character as his mage to go and help Arthur out? But I thought it was an odd thing because they're pretty synonymous with each other in any type of telling. You always see Merlin and King Arthur. So I found it odd that he wasn't there really.
I guess that's one thing that I didn't like and I couldn't get behind because I really enjoy the story of Merlin and who Merlin is to these stories. He is such an integral part when it comes to the sword. The only thing that I can think of is that it's supposed to be kind of a setup for what's to come and who he would
Mhm.
be if they did future movies. That being said, with it performing the way that it is, I mean, unless it gets some sort of legs after Guardians in the Galaxy starts to die down, in which case you're kind of screwed because the movies that are coming out in the next couple of weeks, it's summer. They're not going to make it. They're not going to get that budget back. They're not going to really do well in the theaters. I think they released this at the wrong times. I think they should have released it in the fall when it's typically slow and people are kind of wondering what they should go and see instead of trying to battle against some of these big blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting that you say that because I was thinking about that today earlier. I was like, when could they have released this movie that it would have had a bigger impact? And I honestly think that it wouldn't have mattered when they released it. I think it's the marketing, and I don't think that they've done a good job of showing exactly what you're going to get in this type of film. That would people,
True.
because like you guys said, you weren't really into it even with a lot of the commercials per se. But it's like I think if they had done one of those marketing commercials where sometimes when they're showing scenes from the movie, they intercut with like the actors or the director talking about like the movie and kind of like sort of setting you up for what you're going to see. That might have helped as one of the commercials or one of the like things that you see in the theaters as a as a sneak peek or a quick look at this because it's really magic heavy in the movie and you don't get that, or at least I never got that sense when I was watching the first couple commercials, or I should say trailers, because I always stop after a certain point, so I don't want to keep seeing more stuff revealed through commercials and through trailers. So I think I only watched the first two and didn't get that sense of how much magic would play a part into the film and what it was stylistically. And I think if they had had more marketing and towards showing at least Guy Ritchie and the fact of what he was specifically bringing to this film, maybe it would have given people a better perspective of what they were going to go see as opposed to, oh, it just looks like King Arthur, but it looks kind of weird and I don't know why it looks weird, so I don't know that I want to go see this.
Well, normally we'd probably talk about some box office numbers or at least how this movie's doing. We're recording on Saturday, so no box office yet for the weekend. I mean, I can mention that it looks like King Arthur pulled in 5.3 million on Friday. And according to Box Office Mojo, it looks like it's headed toward a $14 to $15 million weekend. That's definitely going to be at the number 2 spot. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 will probably pretty easily take number 1. So at this point, it seems like it's been kind of a duel between who's going to take number 2, King Arthur or Snatched. It's looking like it might be Snatched, but it's going to be close. Snatched is apparently, I mean, especially when you think about Mother's Day and a Mother's Day kind of movie, I would see that I would put my money on Snatched taking the number 2 spot.
Yeah, I feel bad for King Arthur because their budget was huge and they're not doing well.
Yeah. No, that's too bad.
Unfortunate.
I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, if I knew somebody that was maybe just die hard for a certain type of telling of King Arthur, I'd be like, well, you may not dig this. It's different, but I like different. And I don't know. I dug it.
And like
I
Josh has
thoroughly
said,
enjoyed the music. I thought some of the
Yes.
music was awesome for the movie.
Definitely.
Just really lifted the tone and gave it a very powerful fight song type of feel, like, oh, we're about to get into it now type of
Right,
feeling.
right. Did either of you guys see Snatched? I mean, I know it's only Saturday at this point. I don't know if you've seen two movies or not.
No, I haven't.
No.
I like Amy Schumer, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that we've talked about Snatched at all. There's nothing about this movie that looks appealing to me. Every time I've seen a trailer for it, and I feel like I've seen lots of trailers for this movie, I don't know. It just does not look that funny. I mean, sure, there's moments in the trailer I laugh at, but I don't. It's not. Maybe it's just not my thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pseudo interested to see this movie. I mean, I like Amy Schumer too, so I'm ready to go see it. I just don't know when I'll have the time to go see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know how it is, because at this point, I'm definitely skipping it. I mean, I could see it being like a Netflix watch one day if I need something to watch, but I don't know. It's just not the whole concept of it. Like I don't know. It just looks silly and kind of stupid to me. Yeah, that's all.
Oh yeah, it definitely looks silly and stupid. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking for the cheap laugh. Don't get me wrong. I'm not some sort of mind blowing experience or film,
right.
Cinematography. I am looking for the cheap laugh. That's pretty much what I got when I watched Trainwreck, and I plan on getting that when I watch this.
Gotcha. All right. Well, what else have you guys been watching? We didn't get a chance to talk about anything else other than Guardians of the Galaxy last week. So we might have some catching up to do. I don't know about you guys, but I have made a point to watch American Gods on Starz. What are we, 2 episodes in at this point? I think so, because that's all I've seen.
Episode 3 is tomorrow night.
All right. You guys have watched? Bobby, have you watched it?
I have. I've watched episode 1.
Okay.
So I haven't had a chance to watch the second episode yet.
And you've been watching it, right, Yasha? You caught up?
I watched episode 1 and I watched 10 minutes of episode 2 and I had to turn it off.
All right. I'm digging it, I think, is kind of where I am right now with this. It is unique, and I'm definitely all for unique. But there's definitely times it's very slow. And like watching this second episode in particular, I am most definitely intrigued enough that I'm going to keep watching. But it's at this point, I'm definitely in that zone of I'm just curious to see where we're going here. I will be surprised if it gets 3 to 4 episodes in and I check out. I have a feeling I won't check out just because I'll continue to be way too curious. But at the same time, I'm still in kind of a middle state of I'm not sure what to think of this. That's kind of where I am. And I feel like a part of it too has to do with there seem to be a lot of kind of American Gods kind of stuff, if you will, at Comic-Con when we were there last summer. And that was really my first exposure to it. I'd never read the novel. Never even, honestly, I don't think I'd ever heard of the novel. And while we were there, I started to kind of get exposed to, okay, so what's the basis of the novel? And I feel like going into the show, if I had no idea like what this was about whatsoever, I just have a feeling I'd be a lot more confused. You know what I mean? Am I alone here?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I just think it's hard for me a little bit because I've read the book, and so I know what I was getting myself into. And I will say, with that being said, the show in and of itself, it's different, and I sort of liken it to a little bit of Legion in the way that it's very visual. And I think that in both series, there's sometimes a little too much visual and not enough explanation. And so I think, obviously, after only seeing 1 episode, there's more to come and more depth to it that we'll get as it gets teased out. And knowing that there's a second season that's already been ordered by AMC, by Starz, makes me confident in the fact that there's something there, and they believe that this story is worth telling. And I will say, like, from the standpoint of of someone who does know, I can see how it would be very hard for anyone that's just not familiar with it to try and gauge what's going on. Because all you really understand is there seems to be these manifestations of gods of different people, and their belief in these gods is what helps to sort of power them and bring them to life. But a lot of it isn't necessarily conveyed within a way that is a way to easily understand it. You kind of, if you don't know it or at least have some sort of sense of that going on, it's not a, overly apparent within at least the first episode. But there's been some very, very great visuals in terms of what you're seeing on the screen. But as far as the explanations of what's going on, it's not totally clear. But again, I've only seen the first episode, and there's a lot more to come. So
Right.
that's sort of my take on it.
Yasha, what's your take?
Actually, Bobby nailed it.
Cool.
I really think. I mean, I couldn't agree with him more. I don't mean to like just kind of cut it short there, but I mean he really nailed it. The fact that AMC has signed on for a second season already. I don't know what the ratings are doing so far for this show. I think that it's doing well and it has a following, but that's 2 episodes in, and they already believe that they're just let's do a second season. They're already in beliefs of that and that the success of the show. So I'm hoping that it picks up and it really has a story and the weight to keep me interested. Because I didn't watch the second episode because I got distracted and I had other things that I had to get going. That's the only reason I turned it off. But I told Bobby the feeling that I had was that, okay, I'm going to watch this. I don't know if I want to stay with it or not because it was really out there. It was really far out there.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, and I'll definitely dedicate at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 episodes to watching this. But if it doesn't grab me after maybe that, then I'm definitely going to check out.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to check out because, I don't know, it seems like there's so much potential here, but it's, I don't know.
The talent that they have in the show. The talent that they have in the show is really good.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I get
Really?
to the point of view of, okay, if Starz has already renewed this for a second season, maybe that's evidence that they have a lot of faith in this, and there's something more here than we're seeing yet. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be shocked if this is just a reaction to, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't think of many shows at all that have been kind of big hits for Starz. Starz is, they've been no HBO or even Showtime in the past, right? Like,
Right.
and I won't
say they're.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think maybe their biggest show, and I'm just guessing, it might be Power, but I think that might be.
Right.
I was gonna say I think there's Power, isn't there? And then what is it? The Badlands or something else like
That's
that?
AMC.
That's AMC, yeah. But I also won't be surprised if this is also just kind of a reaction to a sudden influx of subscribers, which I'll admit I'm one of them. Like, I've never subscribed to Starz before, and I decided to do like a free trial of their standalone service on their app, and that's how I'm watching it. And I feel like this particular show is getting a lot of attention, so I feel like maybe there's a lot of people doing that. And if they've, of course, now seen like, oh my God, obviously there's a reaction. We suddenly have way more subscribers or this many more subscribers. Hey, we're definitely renewing this for sure. That I'm sure that plays a big part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep watching. I hope it goes somewhere very intriguing. I want it to be good, kind of thing.
I'm sure it will. Like, I really enjoyed the book, so
Cool.
I think obviously they're changing things here and there so as to not completely match up, but the through line of the story is very intriguing and has a lot of meat to it. So
Right.
I'm sure that's coming. Is just how will they be able to adapt it for the TV version.
Another show I have continued to watch is The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. I'm now 3 episodes in on that show. I believe 5 episodes are now available to watch. And I was a little skeptical about that after the first. I'm not so skeptical anymore. Like, I'm definitely going to keep watching the show. it is very disturbing. There are a couple scenes in particular in these next 2 episodes that were like, wow, this is kind of fucked up and kind of sad and terrible. But Elizabeth Moss is quite good in it, and I'm definitely going to keep watching it. I'm digging the show.
No, it's good to hear because I definitely have it high on my list in terms of shows to watch next once I finish up some of the regular shows that are out on for the season. And it's good knowing that at least once I get to it, I'll be able to watch a lot of them in a row as opposed to having to wait on them. So I'm encouraged to hear that you sort of found the footing for the show, and it didn't take too much longer than just maybe, the second episode or so?
Yeah, after that second episode, I was like, all right, I'm much more interested now. And then, yeah, like I said, I watched the third, and there's no doubt I'll keep going. I'll watch the rest of the season. I mean, unless something just suddenly gets terribly bad with the show, but I'll be kind of surprised if that happens.
And that's gotten picked up for a second season also. So
oh, okay.
Good.
I don't even think I had heard that. Nice. You guys been watching anything else?
Well,
I started the OA. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, actually, I wasn't going to say anything that I had been watching, but I remember, Yasha, I think offline we had talked about the fact that you had seen Colossal.
I did. I watched Colossal last weekend. It was really interesting, not what I expected, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Dang, I gotta go watch it now.
It was very cool. Like the idea that the way that it was presented, the story, because the top has basically a double meaning. Like it's because she's a colossal mess, and then there's this giant monster that's colossal. So it's just. I don't want to give anything else away about it because I feel like if I keep talking about it, it'll definitely bring in some spoilers. But it was a very, very well done movie. I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was really good. It was funny. It was sad. It was just an interesting story. And I think I can see why they released it as an independent movie opposed to trying to put a bunch of money behind it and make it a wide release. But at the same time, I feel like they should start pushing the movie a little bit because I think it would do well.
David, did you get a chance to see it?
No, it started playing at our local our house theater this past week, and it did get held over for another week. So I'm almost certainly going to see it in the middle of this week sometime because I've been wanting to see it badly. So yeah, it'll be there at least until I think this next Thursday. So one of these,
that's my thought.
One of these nights in the middle of this coming week, I'm going in case it does disappear before the next weekend,
Right. Yeah, that's what my thought is too. I think I'll be able to see it before this weekend is over because you never know when a movie like that, it might just sort of disappear because obviously some other bigger movies are coming out and they got to push out some of those other ones. And
right.
This is the type of movie where on one side you've got Beauty and the Beast coming out on Blu-ray in June, and this movie probably won't come out on Blu-ray until August.
Probably.
Well, I just see the movie, and so
it was a fun movie. I would definitely recommend you guys going to try and see it because you don't want to wait on it. It was a really interesting movie. I thought it was good. It was really good.
Cool. Is that it? You guys watch anything else?
Well, I've started watching. A friend of mine convinced me that I need to watch the show The OA on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have watched this show.
Michelle watched it.
Michelle has.
Yeah, she definitely had interesting opinions on it from what I remember. I don't want to speak for her, but
that's what I kind of remembered somebody saying that she watched it, or that it was around, or somebody did watch it in the group. I couldn't remember who it was, and so I'm 3 episodes in, and it's good. It's got me long enough that I want to keep watching it so far. At first, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to watch this. This is stupid because I ripped it apart. In the first episode, I was finding all these plot holes or this huge hole that I just was having a really hard time getting around. And then they kind of explained it, and I'm like, okay. And my buddy at work was very insistent. He's like, just keep going with it. It's a really interesting way to tell a story. You'll like it. I'm like, okay. I'll give it a shot.
Right.
So I'll watch it and I'll try and get through as much as I can until next week because Kimmy Schmidt comes out on Netflix next week, and that's all I'm watching.
Nice.
Uh,
If I were
Yeah,
to
I
pick
love
up, if I were to pick up the OA, it would be purely out of curiosity to see how that season ended because I've heard such kind of
Right.
divisive things about it. I mean, the example is if I remember correctly, and you might know this, Bobby, if I'm wrong, but I think like over at Slash Film, Peter Soretta, if I remember correctly, really, really liked that show in that season. And then I remember listening to their podcast, the Slash Filmcast, and one or two members of that crew going, he's out of his mind. The ending of that season
Yeah.
was terrible.
yeah.
And so now I'm, of course, out of curiosity, I'm like, all right, now I want to see this, but do I want to sit there and watch a whole season just to see what this ending is? And even talking to Michelle, I think I shared that with Michelle, and she has watched it, and her reaction to me was just kind of like, you know what, Dave, just skip it. You don't need to see this. I'm like, all right. I mean, obviously, it's hard for me to fit a lot of shows in, so it's definitely not up there on my list, but there is a curiosity in me that wants to know, like, what the hell happened at the end of that season? Like, that is so, like, either great or terrible.
See, I don't know anything about the end of the season. My buddy was telling me that it was good. I don't even know if they renewed it for a second season. Have they? Has anybody heard that? Because if I watch this, there's some huge cliffhanger at the end of it, and we don't get a second season. I want to be pissed.
Yeah, I don't think they have just yet. I could be wrong, but I don't recall hearing anything about a second season
Right.
just yet.
Right.
You know, I will add something that I have been watching. Bobby, maybe you have watched this. I'm not sure. Do you watch any anime, Bobby?
Not in a long time. I used to watch it pretty heavily, but I haven't watched any in quite a while.
My cousin has convinced me to watch this anime on Netflix, and I've watched one episode so far, and I'll keep going for a little bit because he said it's really good. One Punch Man. Have you heard about this guy?
I have heard of him, but I have not watched any of it.
David?
No, I'm not familiar with it at all.
I mean, it's basically this guy who trained to be a hero, and what happens is he gets to be so good that he defeats every villain that he has or every obstacle that he comes up against with one punch. And it's kind of his own turmoil that he faces with not feeling anything. And I'm kind of getting more and more into understanding where they're going with this story. I mean, it's very anime here and there, but it's like he's lost so much of his emotion because he's not challenged anymore. So he's drawn very plainly, just very, very simplistic. But when he starts to feel things and he starts to have emotion, he basically takes on more of the detail from the rest of the world. So it's kind of interesting how they're doing it. So I've watched one episode. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's it. And that's what I've been watching.
Well, I guess if that's it, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. As always, we'd love to hear back from everyone listening. You can let us know what you think of, well, everything we've talked about and the show at feedback@flickereffect.com. Also, check out our website. We have links to all of our various social media accounts over on the right-hand side. And like I said earlier, you can find these episodes on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/flickereffect. I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
Thanks for listening.